All right, welcome back, and let's get started here. We are now going to be doing the fifth of our tutorials for the Democratizing QGIS and World Building class, and our first was the cesium ion tutorial. I'm looking at my YouTube channel to show you. The second one was QGIS Essential Plugin 1, Quick Map Services. The third was QGIS Essential Plugin 2, Geocoding. And the fourth was QGIS Essential Plugin 3, Quick OSM or Quick OpenStreetMap and Vectors. That is adding points and lines and polygons to the map. And that brings us into the map for tutorial number 5, which is on using spreadsheets and integrating them. And you can see it follows along with our Google Doc, and we're here. It's step 3, but it's tutorial 5, using LibreCalc spreadsheets, bringing in your own data, because we had previously gone through all of these steps here. So if you're following along, as we recommend you do, then you have the entire curriculum here that you can fly through, and you can then follow this path. We're in the QGIS section. We've completed on the first tutorial the cesium ion geographical story map section. We did Quick Map Services, Geocoding, and Quick OSM, and now we are going to look at using LibreOffice Calc spreadsheets, and then we'll get back up to the Open Topography DEM Downloader plugin, and we'll move on to Blender 3D with the Blender GIS add-on. So having gone through all of this and showing how we use these essential plugins, we're now at that stage when we are looking at spreadsheets and starting here using the spreadsheet. And then we're going to get to storing, putting pictures in the map, and then we're going to get to storing shapefiles and spreadsheets. So this is going to take a while. It's not altogether easy to understand if you haven't worked with it before, so we'll try to break it down for you. So the idea here is that I was given a table from the High Atlas Foundation of the different sites that they are working in, 17 sites that they're working in across the High Atlas Mountains in Morocco, and those sites had hyperlinks in blue that would take us to Google Maps and then show us where they were working. And that has the ability, as we've shown, to grab the latitude and longitude. But if you have the latitude and longitude in a spreadsheet, and all this information is in a spreadsheet, you should be able to display it in QGIS without having to go to Google Maps, and without even worrying about what machine you're on, because you can just send spreadsheets to other people and use the spreadsheet to put the vectors and the other geography into the map. So let's look at how that's done. I have a spreadsheet here called HAF project sites, and when I open it up, excuse me, you will see that if I view it and go to the 100%, let's go 150%, you will see that it has a province. I can make this yellow maybe. It has a province, it has a municipality, a village, an estimated number of people, number of households. It has activities that have been done, and things like piping for portable water, solar panels, solar pumps, that information. Then it has the latitude and longitude in degrees, and it has the coordinates in decimal degrees, and then broken out latitude in its own column over here, and longitude in its own column. And then there's something called polygon WKT, or well-known text, that describes these polygons that we were drawing of buildings. And then it has line WKT, which describes paths as a multi-line string. We just saw that in the last tutorial for that path I took from the restaurant near Mohammed VI Polytechnic University to the train station in Ben Gurir. These will be the coordinates that the line is drawn by. So we were able to store polygons, and we were able to store points. Of course, points are latitude and longitude, so these would be your point vector information. This would be your polygon information, and then line would be your line information. And then I've even got pictures, some on my hard drive, which nobody else could access unless they have my hard drive, but I also have pictures that are stored on the web. So if you go to web pictures, I have the HTTPS pictures from Facebook, pictures, videos from YouTube. There's a lot you can store in a spreadsheet that corresponds to your map. And so that's a really parsimonious way to store the data and share the data. You just have to get it into QGIS, and that's what we're going to work on here. So we're back on our map. We're at Muhammad VI Polytechnic University. There's that restaurant. There's the path. There's the train station over there. Train station is a polygon. Path that we took as we walked from the restaurant is a line feature, and the restaurant is a point feature down here. Okay, so we've got that, and there's a building at the university over here. That's the student center, and I drew it, and then we can go up here to information. Where did my information thing go? Goodness gracious, it's disappeared. Should be there. Maybe because I haven't clicked on it. Buildings, and then it comes up. Yes. Click on your layer, and then you find your information. Click on it, and it opens up part of the attribute table, and there I have information. I have the website it can be clicked on. I have the name. I have the address. So this is a spreadsheet in a sense. You can find it in the attribute table. So if I right-click here and go to Open Attribute Table, that is a spreadsheet. It doesn't have a whole lot of information, but that's what I put in when I drew the polygon in the last tutorial. That's what you saw me create. And the same thing with the Culhane locations of interest. If I open that attribute table, there's another spreadsheet, very limited information. It only has one point in it, the Marmara Foods Cafe. It's got the address, and again, it's got a website. If you look at the paths and you open that up, that spreadsheet shows you path from Marmara to railway, and I have no other information. I created a field for photos, but I didn't populate it. The Google Satellite does not have a spreadsheet. There's no attribute table. That just came in from the web. That's the picture that's behind us. So think of that layer that you bring in, whether it's a Google hybrid like this, whether it is a Google road map, or whether it's an ESRI boundaries and places map. All of those are maps that are brought in. They don't have attribute tables, right? Even Google hybrid, there's no attribute table available to you to check out where that hospital is here and where that park is there. That's coming in from the web. So that's your background map, and you do put it in the background. Drop this here, and I've got those off because these features that you put in, like the path and the restaurant and the building, these are layers that we've created as vectors. And that is what can be stored in the spreadsheet. So we got to get this spreadsheet into this map. So to do that, your spreadsheet, first of all, has to be saved as a CSV text file. Don't use a LibreOffice Calc file. Don't use a Excel file. Don't use a database file or an HTML document. Use text CSV, which is comma, separated values, and save that. So it has to say on it when you, it's going to say spreadsheet, but when you actually look at it, it has to be .csv, or it will not work. So it says HAF project sites.csv. So when you've got that, yay, you go in here to a layer and you say, I want to add a layer. I'm not creating a layer like I did when I made the polygon or made the line or made the point. This time I'm adding a layer from the spreadsheet. So you go to add layer and go, excuse me, go to so you go to add delimited text layer because comma separated values are delimited text fields. So when you go to that, it shows a little comma for the delimiter. It's the comma separated values, CSV, comma separated values. When you click on that, you will get a window that opens up, and it's got lots of information. It's the data source manager, and you'll go to delimited text. Make sure it's on delimited text because it might get off of that. There's so much that you can bring in, but you're bringing in delimited text, and you're going to the file name. So click on those three dots and find your file. Why is my computer taking time? Oh, it does have it there. No, it's under spreadsheets, I believe. Spreadsheets and attribute tables. There it is, HAF project sites. Okay, so I open that up, and you see the attribute table, the data table, show up here with those fields that I was pointing out that are in there, the province, the municipality, the village, the estimated number of people, number of households, all the data that the High Atlas Foundation supplied us with, activities, and of course then you have the latitude, longitude, and the polygon, well-known text, WKT, for some of them, if it's there, and the lines and pictures, and the web pictures. So these are all the fields that I created in my spreadsheet, and I could make lots and lots more, but I was working in the spreadsheet to do this. And then you want to tell it that I do want CSV as the file format. Make sure that that is what is checked. And you don't have to worry about the number of header lines to discard, really. Now, I don't touch any of these. It always says first record has field names, and so there that is in the sample data. Detect the field types, please, for us. Don't worry about the Booleans yet. Point coordinates is what we're doing now. Well-known text is for polygons and lines, as we said. And then if it's an attribute-only table with no geometry, you click on that. But I'm using point coordinates for this first entry. X field is longitude. Y field is latitude. Now, normally in a Google Maps or any other program, it always goes lat-long, latitude, longitude. So latitude comes first, then longitude. But when it's being displayed on the map, the latitude is the y-axis going down, up and down the map, right? So that is your latitude, and the longitude is going across. And that's because when we talk about, it's funny, because latitude actually is horizontal up the map of the Earth. That is the latitude lines, and longitude lines are up and down. So it's counterintuitive, and yet this is the way that you have to do it. So try not to be confused by that, the way that you'd think of X and Y. It's just that QGIS brings in the X field as the longitude and the Y field as the latitude. You could change them, of course, but we don't. And geometry here is the coordinate reference system is EPCSG 3857 WGS84 Mercator. That can also be changed, but that is what came in from Google Maps. Okay, oops. That got messed up. All right. So when I have this data that I want to bring in, all I need to do now is go and add it. And when I add it, and then close, HF project sites is now here, but they're not showing up on the map. Why? Because Ben Gurir and the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University is not one of those sites, so it doesn't show up. So to find the sites, we're going to go and we're going to double click on that and go to our effect drop shadow marker that's really easy to see, and we're going to make it also pretty big so it's easy to see. So let me go for 10 pixels in here if I can get the number lock to work. All right, and apply it, and still it doesn't show up. What's up with that? So right click and say zoom to layer, and there's all the project sites, and they're in the middle of space. That is weird. In the middle of space. So what accounts for that? Well, they're in the wrong projection. Even though we're using EPSG 3857, it turns out, and this is just one of those funny things, that this layer needs to be set to EPSG 4326. So when I set it that way and now zoom into the layer, bang, they're in Morocco in the right place. And that baffled me, and I'm not at a point now where I'm comfortable enough trying to explain coordinate reference systems and how they match or mismatch, but that's how it works for me. And so now when I double click on that, if I want to make them even bigger, I can go maybe up to 20 pixels and apply. Now they're a bit bigger. They can be seen as we zoom out of the map and in the map. They're in the right place. And we can see that one of those sites now, if we use the information tool up here at I, and we come and we place it like here, we see that data. We see it says the province is Marrakesh Safi, the province municipality is Marrakesh, the village is actually the High Atlas Foundation office, and then it's got the coordinate latitude and longitude, and it's got a polygon associated with it. So where is that polygon? That would be the question. Where is that polygon? So when we are looking at that and we want to zoom in on it, one thing you can always do is right-click on the actual layer, excuse me, and go to Open Attribute Table and find the High Atlas Office row. There's all that data. And right-click on it and go Zoom to Feature. And what happens? It shows up. It becomes yellow there. But again, we did that problem of not picking the zoom level in scale here. If we want to see stuff, remember from the previous tutorials, go to 1 to 2500 or 1 to 1000. Even if you're anywhere off on the map like this, or you're way out in the desert here, if you go into 1 to 1000 scale, right in the desert, and then come to your attribute table and go zoom to feature, now, boom, we're at the High Atlas Office. And we should have a polygon associated with it, but we don't. All that we have in this table, all that we have is point information based on latitude and longitude, not the photographs, not the websites. That information shows up in here, but it doesn't show up on the map. And the reason it doesn't show up on the map is because we only brought in the latitude and longitude. Let me show you what I mean. The latitude and longitudes for each of these locations is here. It says there's pictures, and some of them actually would show other polygons, but they're not going to display on the map simply because that wasn't what we brought in from the spreadsheet. We brought in points. To bring in the other information that's in the spreadsheet, and I'll show you, we don't have a lot of it, but let me show you where it is. So down here, there's a polygon, well-known text, multi-polygon, and down here. And then over here, there is a line feature. Go up here to find it. Line WKT, and if we go down there, there's a multi-line string in row 28, and that would be Aglula path to party. So there's a line there, and there is, if we go back over and look at the polygons in the spreadsheet, there's a polygon on record number 23 and record number 25, a multi-polygon that's described by these points. So if we go back to 23, it's the UM6P project area. 25 is the HAF study area polygon. They're not showing up, lines and polygons. How would we make them show up? Well, we add another layer, and that layer is also from the delimited text, and we bring in the exact same spreadsheet, but this time we are not looking for point coordinates described by longitude and latitude. We want well-known text. And then we can tell it which geometry field we want to pull that from. I have polygon WKT here. That's what I'm going to bring in now. I can let it detect the type of geometry. It's going to end up being a polygon anyway, because that's the field's information, that field being way over here. Pictures, picture. Okay, there it is, polygon WKT. As I scroll down, why am I not seeing it? Because this is just a sample of the data. It doesn't give you the full data. So I'm not seeing it, and there's nothing in these first records. It starts at 23, and the sample data only goes down to 20. But it's going to pull in the information from this column, and there's 2 records of that. And that's what I want to put in. And again, it's going to bring it in the wrong place. So maybe from here, I should go and set it to 4326 immediately, and then go and add it. And I close this, bang, there is that polygon. One of them is the HF project site polygon, and then if we right click on it and look at the attribute table, we also know that inside there should be a, oh, interesting. So because it's actually the information, it's not showing the data table for that polygon. But if we were to take this polygon and make it transparent, this is the HAF study polygon, and if we were to make it, let me double click on it, and let me make its opacity go down. Then we should also see that in here there is a polygon for the area there. So you see that square, this one here. This one is the High Atlas Foundation office area square, and this one is the whole High Atlas Foundation study area polygon. And if I get rid of that, just go to that. It's hard to get one of them and not the other. If I shift click, it won't work. So you just have to be aware that there's polygons over polygons inside here, and those were the two columns, the 2 rows that we were looking at. Okay, so great about that. What if we now want to bring in a line feature for one of these villages? Then we would go through the same exact procedure. What we do is, knowing that we have in our spreadsheet, so there was a polygon there, and we know that there was another polygon here. So we had a polygon on number 23, which is the UM6P project area, and we had a polygon for the High Atlas Foundation. So there's that, and then we had another polygon here, which is on 30, and another one at 31. So we have one for the Zaytun Cafe, and we have one for the Herborist Palais El Badia. So we have to look for those. It means that somewhere up here in Ben Gurir, yes, we do. We have a polygon right there. That is the Ben Gurir polygon that was in our data set. And there is another polygon, 2 polygons more actually, which are in the city of Marrakesh. As we zoom on in and we find somewhere down in here the actual restaurant area, but I'm not quite seeing it yet. It might be hidden in here and so small that it's hard to find. There's, no, that's not it. Well, this is one of the problems of having overlapping study areas, polygons, because it's hard to find the polygons that are within that. And for some reason, when we're opening up the attribute table, we're not even able to, let's see, well, the Zaytoun Cafe, if I go there, it should highlight. And this is the virtue of using the attribute table. Certainly when we go to the HAS study polygon, that turns yellow. And when we go to the UM6P project area, then that turns yellow way up here in Ben Guerir. So we have that. And if we go to the project sites attribute table and go down to the Zaytoun Cafe and zoom to that feature, then yes, it does show up. There's the Zaytoun Cafe. That feature shows up, and there should be one more polygon that we identified from our attribute table, which is the herborist record 31, where we bought the, as it says here, we bought our argon oil, and I played with turtles. So when we go back to the attribute table and open it up, and let's find that attribute table, there it is. If I go to that herborist and click on that, and now zoom to that feature, and bang, there is the polygon for that feature. And these are close enough together that when I click on this other one, you see that one shows up there. That is, sorry, that one shows up. It's just it was so tiny that it was hard to see. And the other one is somewhere in this region. And again, you would go to it by going to your attribute table and finding the other one, clicking on it, and then it turns yellow. And there's that one, and there's that one. So this is how the spreadsheet is putting them all into a single layer, even the one way up here in Ben Guerir. Now, what about that line that we talked about? I can check that so it disappears. It's selected, that's why it shows up there. Keep my project sites. We're going to look at a path that was in the spreadsheet, and that path is under the WKT file, or the well-known text file, under not polygon WKT, but under line WKT, and it's in record 28 and 29. Those are the records. So 28 and 29 is a Glula path to a party in the desert in Arzazte, and then another one, a path from Cafe Zaytoun to the herborist snake charmers, which we walked when we were in that study area in the city of Marrakesh. So we got to bring those lines in. So to do that, once again, we go to Layer, and add delimited text layer. This time, however, while we're using the exact same spreadsheet, this time we're going to a well-known text, but we're not going for the polygon, we're going for the line WKT. We'll let the geometry type be detected. We'll keep this at 4326, which is not the same CRS as the Google Maps 3857. And once again, I said I don't really get why that is that way, but it's the way it worked, because otherwise it'll end up in the ocean or in outer space. But now that we've done that, it'll pick up that line WKT column, and it'll pull in whatever information is in there. So we hit add, creates another layer, and now we have HAF project sites line. So here you see there's one for points. Let's get a little point there. You've got polygons represented by this square, and we've got lines. Now, where are those lines? Well, once again, we can right-click on it and say zoom to layer, but what good did that do? We can go and change our scale to 1 in 2500, and we can zoom in there, but it ain't doing us much of any good at all. Seems like it's way off the map, for one thing. So let's see if we open the attribute table and we go to the path. This is the path. So if we go to this path, then when I right click zoom to feature, there we are. We are at there, but the path doesn't really seem to show up. Well, why is that? It's because we've got to change the symbology to make it easier to see. Let's try neon glowing, see if that makes it show up. And if the neon glowing doesn't make it show up, maybe it's still way too small. It's in millimeters. So let's go to pixels, and let's go to 10 pixels for a start. Try it out. So far, a whole lot of nothing. Let's go to 20 pixels and apply that. And I'm not seeing that path. Why is that? In the project area, we have the place we walked from and to. We have the HAF project sites, and we're not getting a path. Interesting. Could be a glitch. We can look at the other path that we have. Open the attribute table. We had one that was, this is where there should be another path somewhere. Community. Is there no other path? That was activities. Under, and it disappears. Fascinating that the actual column disappears in the attribute table when you're on something. So we'd have to go back to here and see the path. The other path is Aglula path to party, number 28. And so we want to go to Aglula under village, Aglula path to party, and see if it shows up. Although it just disappeared. All right, let's try it again. We go to layer, we go to add layer, add delimited text layer. We tell it that we want to be in well-known geometry. We tell it that we want it to use we have to choose our file first, HAF project sites. We tell it that we want to use the geometry should be a line, and we want to make it a line just in case there was some problem. And we keep the default, and we add it. Close this. We go to this and double click on it. We make it effect neon, make it as big as we can. Say apply, say OK. It should show up now. And there it is. That one definitely shows up, as you can see. If we zoom, now we've made it far too big, and we've got two of them. So you're going to find little computer glitches like this. I can get rid of this one and remove this layer. I don't know why there's two. But if I double click on this again, and I now bring this way down to maybe 5, and apply it, now you see a path. So this is the path information of somebody walking from the village. Here is the star point system down through the different fields and to another village, and then over here, and then down into the desert and down to where the party's going to go on. That information is then shown there. So we see that that line is in there. When I zoom to the entire project site layer, then it just looks ridiculous. I'm not even sure why it does that. You're going to have little glitches like that from time to time. So I'd have to go to the actual attribute table and then find that Aglula, for example, and then zoom to the feature. And then my feature shows up and it's yellow because it's selected in the attribute table. I'm going to click on it. It tells you that that's the Aglula path to the party. And I drew that the same way that I drew way up in Ben Guerir. If we go up to Culhane Paths over here, and I zoom to that layer, that path that I drew in the last tutorial, I used the pencil and the polygon drawing tool to make this path, and then I have to show you how I exported it out to the spreadsheet so that it would stay there. The spreadsheet doesn't automatically have these features. There is a way to draw the features, and then they contain data that then can be exported, and we'll get into that in the next tutorial. But I just wanted to show now that when I'm at my in my project site line, well-known text in that attribute table, I should also be able to get to a path like this one here and zoom there, and that's supposed to show up, but it appears like that line information is not showing up, and there may be some problem with the data. Probably the fact is that this one says line string in number 29. That is the path there. And the other one says multi-line string. Or it could be that there's a problem. So somehow this did not translate right. It does have a lot of data in it. Let's just try putting in the word multi and see if that makes any difference at all. It may be that the coordinates, wow, the coordinates are completely different. -889,110. So something went wrong in the creation of that, because you can see this data is way out there. It doesn't any correspondence to reality, whereas this is latitude and longitude. It's -731, -721, 31. That is closer to what the lat long is of that region. So there is a problem definitely in the data set when it translated that. This is not corresponding to anything unless what it is that it's there's two different types of degrees. If you look at, let's go to the web here for a second. If we look at decimal degrees versus degrees, minutes, and seconds. And so if we were to look at, you can see here decimal degrees. If we say Morocco in degrees, minutes, and seconds, then you will see that it's 32 north, 5 west for some of it. And so you can see that it probably got confused when the data was being saved in here. This is not correct where these decimal places are. And that's why we're having problem with that record. And so we've got to get back in and fix that. But the general idea did work at bringing in lines, and it did bring in the proper lines down in this region down here. But that was all by way of saying that we can bring in information. The next piece of information that we want to bring in, of course, are the photographs and websites that are in this data set. And by looking at those websites, YouTube, for example, we should be able to call on them. But there's a way that you have to do that. And the way that we'll do that is we'll just go to the HAF project sites, and we will go to the symbology, but now we're going to go to this attributes form available widgets, and you see where it says picture, and it has a widget type. The widget type needs to be set to attachment, and then you have a default path, and then that should be in the folder where your picture is kept. And then you would have to say make it an image, and then you would tell it that you want it to use a hyperlink. And if you want the full path, you would display it as a full path. And then you'd apply that, and you'd say, oh, well, you don't want to say OK yet because we're not done. That's for that picture. You'd have to do that for every single value, every single field that you have. Create an attachment, integrate the viewer, and use a hyperlink, and apply it, and do the same thing for the other picture, that field that is there. So once again, attachment, and that's fine. Just attachment, and then go to the hyperlink and integrate the document viewer. I mean, again, documents can be put in that way as well. They're all attachments. So if you have a document, then the type will be web view maybe, or maybe no content. Use a hyperlink, apply, and then web pictures. You would again make attachments, and for this you're using a hyperlink and you're using web view, and the same for web pictures too. So you're going to go through this a whole bunch of times in your attribute table so that you can have access to these from the map. And finally, we have this one, attachment, and hyperlink, and web view. And I've got a video, 2 video fields. If I want to play the video, they're all attachments. Use a hyperlink, and then go to the web view. And a final one here in video, attachment, and hyperlink, and web view. Why not video? Because I'm not putting in a video off my hard drive. I'm using the web and applying. And then when I say OK, now if I go to my project sites that I use the attribute table for, and I open up the attribute table, and I decide that I'm going to zoom in on, for example, I'll zoom in on Aglula, for example. So I go to Aglula, I zoom to feature. There's Aglula. When I click on it, it tells me that there is a picture of solar panels, but it doesn't show up here. I have to go into this view, and there's the solar panels right there, and there's a link to it. If I want to open it up bigger, it'll open up in another window. So that would be a GLULA, and again, you'd have to click on the Adenfa's View Feature form to see that. Another thing we can do is go and look at this one here, and it doesn't seem to have any information, so we can not bother with that. Let's find out if this one here has some information. No, nothing there that's attached. So we continue up looking at our different points. Solar panels, but there's no information attached. What about this one here? Nothing. What about this one here? So we don't have pictures for everything, but some we definitely do. Like this one has web pictures, and it has pictures. So if I go and click on the web picture, then bang, we have a web picture right there. So that's pretty cool that you can have a map and you have all these web pictures that you can call up from Facebook, for example. And not only that, but you can come in and you can find the videos on YouTube and play videos from right up the map. So you can use attachments to attach basically anything to your map. I mean, if we go back up to Marrakesh and go to the High Atlas Foundation office, we don't have a document in there. We might have one for Akrish. Let's see. Akrish has photos that can be accessed that are on the hard drive, which are here, and it has a booklet in here. So there is a document attached to it that you can get to. And there's that whole booklet accessible on the hard drive. You see it's in my D drive. So that PDF is only accessible to me on my computer when I launch the map. Whereas if and the same thing with the pictures, and if I click on that, that is on my hard drive, that picture there. But the web pictures are on Facebook, so anybody can access them. And the videos are there on YouTube. So you do have this capability with the map to store that information in your spreadsheet, as I have here. And you see that I've stored them. There's YouTube under this column of videos. There's YouTube information there. There's YouTube information under that video. And there are pictures, web pictures, and then photos that are stored on my hard drive. So all of that is in this spreadsheet. And then that information has been pulled in as feature attributes, whether it's documents or it's images, videos, web links, all that's in there along with a bunch of other information that is in the attribute table. And you can continue to add that stuff, which is what we'll get into in the next tutorial. How do you get a polygon like the one that we've drawn for Ben Gurir up here? When we're up there, how do we get that line that we've drawn on the map in QGIS? How do we get that point feature that we positioned here? How do we get the polygon that we have created for the train station, this polygon here? How do we get that information as a WKT or as lat-lon into the spreadsheet? Because they work both ways. And that is what we will cover next.